So then, do you believe the First Amendment actually has limitations?
The First Amendment to me implies speech, not physical behavior. So if I'm going to be speaking about something, I have the right to say it without fear that the government or anybody's going to do something to me. A lot of that was founded upon religious freedom as well, because when we had the wars between the Catholics and the Protestants and certain beliefs about Christianity, you were not open to speak about certain things. It's one reason we want to make sure we have freedom of speech and assembly and other things. But certain acts that are physical acts, to me, that's not speech.
And as my final question, since the NFL and NBA Act is a private entity and privately owned, do athletes get the right to exercise their First Amendment rights? For example, which were adapted for the public realm in that private space. Adapted for. Oh.
Hi, my name is Dr. Anna Lamacandra, and I am the Executive Director for Blazing Trails and the Program Manager for Association for Persons Affected by Addiction. My relationship with the First Amendment is that I'm a U.S. citizen, which qualifies me to link into the First Amendment rights that are afforded to all individuals.
So, Ms. Anna, a few weeks after Trump won the 2016 presidential election, he tweeted, "Nobody should be allowed to burn the American flag. If they do, there must be consequence, perhaps loss of citizenship or a year in jail." What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me give you an example. You know that we have many different religions in America, right? That's a part of my freedom. But technically, the religions are all based on one text, which would be the Bible. But see, people interpret the meaning of things differently. So that's why you have Methodists and Baptists and Episcopalian, but they're all based on one word. I'm using that as an example to say, you have the First Amendment rights, and our president has interpreted the word for his own special meaning. And one thing about humans, that we leave things up to interpretation.
So how has the First Amendment been violated and stretched to fit one person's use of it, i.e. Trump, but not another's, and athletes taking a knee?
Well, that's a very complex scenario you just described. And to me, it lines up against where somebody falls ideologically. So, if I am a diehard patriot, then I may line up to believe that it's wrong to disrespect the flag. But who says it's disrespecting the flag? That's up to whose interpretation, whoever the watcher or reader may be. In this case, the watcher or reader happens to be the majority of the American public. They have an opinion, and many of them have weighed in on what it means to take a knee. And sometimes we get confused when we see a different hand holding something versus another hand. So let's say if everybody who took a knee was wearing a United States military uniform, that would be one interpretation, versus someone who's wearing a basketball or football or baseball uniform. That's up to interpretation.
My name is Archie Manyweather. I am a recovery coach here at APA, Association of Persons Affected by Addiction. And First Amendment right, I believe in the freedom of speech and right to religious freedoms.
So, Mr. Archie, in today's climate of social media wars, does the First Amendment grant to you absolute protection? For example, the right to bash religious sects and the president?
Honestly, I think that that freedom is a privilege. And because I think it's a privilege, it is my responsibility to if I have a disagreement, I believe that you should be able to freely speak what's really going on with you, but not at the risk of demeaning or degrading someone else. So I don't have to like the President of the United States, but I will address him as such. And I don't agree with everything he does. I can say that without all the name calling. I believe he should. Definitely he should. He's the leader of the United. He is the president. So I can expect you to abide by it, and I don't.
Does he?
Huh?
Do you think he follows the First Amendment?
I think he misuses it.
In what sorts?
In what sorts?
Yes, sir.
As far as his getting into matters that really is not really that important to national security. We're talking about now if it's dealing with wars with China or with North Korea. I believe that that's his lane. But when it comes down to what they're doing with the kneeling at the football games and all of that, that's where I draw the line. That's where it's like we have a lot more things going on other than.
All right. And for my final question, how has the First Amendment been violated and stretched to fit one person's use of it, i.e. Trump, but not another's? The kneeling of athletes or bashing a religion?
Say that again.
How has the First Amendment been violated and stretched to fit one person's use of it, i.e. Trump, but not another's? The taking a knee from athletes or bashing another's religion?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's been violated. I just believe that it's been misapplied. If that makes sense. It's like people stretch one rule to make it fit what they want it to fit, and the Constitution is solid in what it's saying. It's just I don't get to misinterpret it just to get what I want done. Freedom of speech is for everyone, whether they're wrong or they're right. But it's still, once again, and I believe this wholeheartedly, it is a privilege, because I can go to Germany or in some of these other countries and demand, in some of the Asian spots, or even in, I can't go to Russia and have freedom of speech. So this is something that I value. It's something that, look, I have freedom, but with that freedom comes responsibility, and that responsibility is I need to be responsible for how I use my free speech.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Is that it?
All right, I'm Victor Clark. I was a political science major at the University of Texas at Dallas. I currently teach middle school students Texas history. I have experience with teaching U.S. history on the high school level as well as U.S. government on the high school level. What the First Amendment means to me out of all of the first 10 amendments, which are known as the Bill of Rights, is that it's probably the most open for interpretation, the one that gives you the most freedom in terms of being able to set up the other 9 amendments. Now, when you're talking about the First Amendment, you have some things that come along with it. As an example, everybody talks about the freedom of speech. But with the freedom of speech, speech is not always free. Because you obviously have some places that you cannot go and just say what you want to say and how you want to say it. But for me, it sets the foundation for the Bill of Rights.
So, Mr. Carr, in today's climate of social media wars, does the First Amendment grant you absolute protection, for example, the right to bash religion, religious sects, and the president?
As long as it's not libelous or slander, meaning that you cannot go out and knowingly put out false information.
So do you think the president should be the example of the First Amendment, setting the example so people know what to do and what to follow?
I think that he should be aware of what the First Amendment is and the rights of others, as well as his own responsibilities and the uses of it.
All right, so how best could he do that then?
By example, but not being so quick to respond, right? By taking the time to examine why people feel the way they feel, why they want to express themselves the way they express themselves, why when people can come together and peaceably protest, why nobody should be able to trample on that right.
I'm asking you a question. Since the NFL, NBA, etc. is a private entity and is privately owned, do athletes get the right to exercise their First Amendment rights, which were adapted for the public realm in that private space?
Well, privacy is the key term that you just used, right? And it's back what I'll elaborate on again, right? You work for an organization, and in that organization, that code of conduct policy states that you're to refrain from being involved with matters of the media or even being on social media, and that it could impact your job. And that's completely different because it's private. It's no longer held to the same public standard.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.